Hello and welcome
to Friday Lives.
Friday Live with John and Ralph. I just said like pre-record. I said let's just go do some cool shit,
right?
Because most of our week, at least most of my week, is dealing with like managerial issues, like lawyers.
It's all the grunt work.
I'm like, oh my God, like this is like a breath of fresh air. This is cool shit as far as I'm concerned.
It's all the fun stuff that I get to, press all the fun buttons in the lab and everything.
I know. If only like that's what I could do all day. Well, I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't have your level of detail, desire anymore like I used to. But what I love is like the outcome of it and how we're able to share it and then teach it to people, and then they use it and they get great results. So that's the big satisfaction, at least for me. So
same here.
I'm just using you for your brain. Is that okay?
That's okay. Honestly, that's all I really am anyway. I'm not much to look at, but I have a good brain. So
it's just a big brain.
Thank God. It somehow fits in this tiny head. I have a really tiny head, by the way. If I put on a hat, I instantly turn into a 12-year-old. I look like I don't even fit in. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why.
Okay,
these things are play school.
I mean, your head looks larger than the average man. I just sort of figured because
it's all camera angle and Photoshop.
That's it. But my head is actually like larger. Like my father's head was like 7 3/4, and one of my kids,
I don't know.
That's big.
Okay.
I'm 7 5/8. My kids are all 7 1/2.
So probably like 6.
You're probably like 6.
Yeah.
Anyway, runs in the family here. My that causes problems in the birth canal, apparently, according to my mother. But we're not going to get into that here today. Today,
we'll skip the repressed memories for another episode.
Things Ralph's mom blames him for. Today, we're talking about some really seriously cool shit, and this is something that we've referenced, we've talked a little bit about, but I think it's one of the coolest things that you do. And there's a lot of cool things that you do. But first off, this is one of the cooler things because it's on a platform that nobody really knows how to get performance out of this platform. And the platform we're going to be talking about today is YouTube. And I call it sequencing. What do you call it? Do you call it?
It's actually just a sequencing guide. That's actually what Google calls it. Okay. And I think I also wanted this episode to kind of be about like the how it works, how to set it up, what to look for, how to optimize, where to find the pitfalls, etc. And also what you're not going to see, like conversions, which is actually the reason why this is not a well-known type of campaign. It's because so many people are used to looking at in-app and be like, I don't see my $2 CPA. Where is it? Right. But it's more of a TV commercial. It's more like a meta ad. Like everyone's really happy on like 1x meta ad return. And it actually does really well because people, don't really click that much. It's the same thing on YouTube, even more. People click on YouTube ads less than meta ads, but it doesn't mean that it's not actually having an impact. So the reason why I wanted to make this campaign a center focus today is because with demand gen that is basically, has now overtaken the Google Ads ecosystem for all things YouTube, people have kind of forgotten about that you can still set up YouTube outside of demand gen. And you can still set them up in ways that are very beneficial to the top line metrics of your business. But it's people, I think, are so ingrained in using the YouTube ads as a conversion engine or as a conversion campaign that they're like, well, if you want to go to YouTube and get the conversions attributed to YouTube, you got to use demand gen now, which is true. If you want to run a video ads a video action campaign on videos, you have to use demand gen now. But all of the good marketing that is good for your business that doesn't attribute inside they're still there and they still work well. And today we're going to be discussing kind of how to run them, how to optimize them, what to look for, that kind of stuff. Because I think that I've been using them more and more and more because demand gen has become, increasingly warm until, we've solved that with first party data imports, but not everyone's on first party data imports. And this doesn't actually get steered away by not seeing conversions because it's not using a conversion-based bidding strategy. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the big question is I mean, I think the recommendation on YouTube is always, I always sort of say, well, you can't really see much of an impact unless you spend a fair amount, which is at least like 10K per month, which is a benchmark I think you still use sort of as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah.
But still, you don't see the conversions in there. So you don't really know if it's working. And
Right.
I think you do have to have some kind of multi-channel to be able to, or multi-channel view to be able to determine whether or not that is having an effect. And all things being equal, if you double your YouTube ad spend and you see it coming out the other end, maybe on your Amazon and maybe on your Google search or your Google brand, or, maybe even some on email to a certain degree on retargeting. Like, you need to be able to sort of look at it in a holistic way. And that's like the missing piece here, is because YouTube doesn't have a click unless 99, what percentage of cases does it have a click?
Well, I mean, your average click-through rate's like kind of 0.5%. So if you impress 100 people, you might get a data point on maybe one of them.
Maybe one.
Yeah.
So I wonder why people even use it to begin with, because they don't really understand any of this. Like, what I mean?
And that's what's interesting is like the reason why we have the MPIs is because good marketing spend will always result in good revenue lift. But if you have bad marketing spend, it will result obviously in no revenue or lead lift, regardless in both scenarios what Google says. And so that's a good way of saying, if I'm going to be putting another dollar in on this end, I better see at least another $1 or $2 come out the other side. It's the easiest way to measure a business, because it's obviously the only thing that's going to keep it afloat. So that's what's interesting is I think that the industry has been slapped around by uneducated clients for so long that unless they see a 4X, inside of a campaign like brand does, don't run it. And that's a limitation of thinking that keeps small businesses small.
Well, I mean, if Meta is like that, YouTube is even worse.
Yeah.
And I mean, we still see a ton of YouTube advertisers. Obviously, I watch YouTube all the time. Yeah. And I know they're not getting a click, but they're just getting an impression. And in a general way, like, you have to look at that as your overall MER. Like, there's no real way to say, okay, YouTube is the thing that's driving it, unless you all of a sudden, your credit card doesn't work one day and all of a sudden all your sales go down. Like, that's the only way. Like, when we've seen that plenty of times on all platforms, YouTube is no exception.
Exactly. Every platform is no exception. And when I say every platform, I mean TV commercials, billboards, and direct mail, and a Super Bowl ad. They all don't have click attributed ROAS, but everyone still runs them, and they're still half the size of, or competing of equal size of digital. Yeah, it's losing market share sometimes. Sometimes it makes a comeback. Let's kind of dive right in too.
Yeah, let's get into it.
This is a company that works with a lot of higher end individuals. They're looking for a reputation management company. So this is if you have anything that you need to obviously look and smell and feel better on Google when people Google your name. This is a company that handles reputation management. So it is sometimes a difficult industry to be in because they're longer sales cycle. They take a while to drip, because a lot of times reputation management is not necessarily something that you think about as a solve for it. Usually it's like, well, let's do SEO. Let's sue these people that have a bad article about me, yada, yada, yada. So there is a longer sales cycle, and it's fairly expensive, and it's usually an individual. It's not necessarily a company. So it is a difficult scale. So one of the ways that we came up with basically being able to conceptualize a story and to deliver it to a user kind of forcefully is we created an 8 impression step campaign. And an 8 impression campaign mean that you are going to need to see every single one of these videos before you're done with the sequence. And regardless of what you do, watch, skip, or just pretty much the only thing you could do, as long as you're impressed by that ad, even if you skipped, you're then pushed into the sequence of next. And what this means is that our step sequence, you have different choices that you can do step sequences. The first step sequence, you can even say, well, if you're going to be impressed by an ad, or if you view an ad, which means watch longer than 10 seconds, or if you skip an ad, I get to decide if you go like this path or that path, or I can get to choose the paths. This is a path for a high amount of frequency. And the high amount of frequency means that if you see higher frequency and success inside of Meta, where you're like, hey, once I get over that 2 or 3 or 4 weekly frequency, we start to see that our middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel engagement is better. And we start to see that our top of funnel ad spend is spending more. So you're kind of seeing a little bit of a pipeline. What's really terrible about YouTube is it has a very, very, very low frequency. The frequency is usually about 1.4 on average. And and YouTube doesn't need to be high because it is going to live and die by omni-channel traffic. I'm going to be using this tool here for a minute because I have a client that's still running it. They're actually onboarding right now on Data Suite, which is pretty cool. So this is a company that was on this platform. So I'm going to use their old data. But one of the reasons why they're no longer using this particular platform is because we see that when running a YouTube ads campaign.
Don't forget to export your Northbeam data.
Hey. Well, maybe not even important.
It's debatable.
So anyway, looking at this, so here's what Google does on a YouTube ad for video action campaigns. This is demand gen. So video action campaigns are where you have your I think it was it February? Was it this time period or was it January? I think it might have been January. Yeah, it was this time period here. So here's what's interesting. On first touch, YouTube should not have the same spend and lose half its revenue because Facebook was pulled back. That should not be a thing on first touch. First touch means it doesn't matter what happens to Facebook spend. This would always be, static. It's first touch, right? It shouldn't be touching anybody that's on the website and remarketing to them. But we see that way too often. And our first little test here was when we pulled out about $50,000 in weekly spend from Facebook. This thing, lost 50% of its revenue and didn't really react to it. The week after that, in January, when we did the next week, 15th to the 21st, compared to the 8th and 24th, we see that we actually piped in 30% more. Again, YouTube didn't react to it from spend, but it magically got 42% more revenue first touch. Also with 43% less new visits. So how does that happen? That's not a statistical factor. It's mathematically incorrect if this is first touch. Because first touch would have given all of this revenue back to the channel that it earned. So we can see that either A, platform is not necessarily always first touch, which is actually also the case. But what that means that has to be true is that YouTube does remarketing on video action campaigns. We already know this. Like you can see, there's already 300 people here that have already been on the site first touch. So it's definitely not working well. The last fun thing is like, my always question was, how do you have first touch revenue from Klaviyo? You can't have email first touch. It's not a thing unless you're buying lists. So all of this data basically just proves that when you actually see the truth, which is, yes, it goes warm, it retargets. That's the issue. Why did I bring that up? I brought that up because when you have a frequency of 1.5, you don't have to try to generate interest in order to attribute a conversion. Low frequency, low impression campaigns can simply be like, Ralph's about to buy today. Show Ralph an ad. I win. I don't have to actually take Ralph who's cold, tell a story, warm Ralph up, and get them to want to buy. I simply say, thank God there's someone here that came from Facebook. I'll also attribute it to myself. And that's what a video action campaign does. And that's why measuring by ROAS, a lot of times you're 50% off, even on a third-party platform, even on first touch. It's worse when you're actually inside of Google. It attributes even more after you try to remove all the stuff that it is already attributed. This is a campaign that will do just that, which is high frequency, targeted audience, a very a campaign that can be have control over how to tell the story and get a visual feedback about how people are understanding the story. So as a quick example, we've been running this thing since the 10th, so it's not been very long. But watch this. What we did is look at the engagement by the sequence. We know that step 5, we see actually click-through rate fall off. We know that step 6, we have click-through rate that's actually not very good. We see that on step 8, it is actually horribly abysmal. And there's a good amount of ad spend here. Nothing worse than the 48 that's getting us 0.63. So when you're looking at your sequencing, what we're trying to identify is theoretically, the more that a person is going down the path sequence, the higher their click-through rate should be. And it should look like this: kind of interested, getting more and more interested. That would mean that this is a good sequence. So the first step in running a sequencing ad is, am I telling the story in the right path? One way to do that after you start your campaigns is look through like a halfway point. What a halfway point means is if I take this thing and say, well, what's the last 7 days compared to the previous 7 days? We know that we're getting fairly poor and diminishing returns in our click-through rate from these ads here. So we ended up just simply pausing those ads in the sequence. We say, okay, they're going through the sequence well, but as soon as they see this ad, we kind of lose them. And then everything else from there kind of has poor performance, except for maybe 1 or 2 other videos. So you start to actually reduce the sequence of good videos versus bad videos, and you're using that off of click-through rate. And as some time goes on, you can kind of see now, if we look at the last 7 days compared to the previous 7 days, it's 0.5. And then they may jump to the second one and goes 0.38, 0.46, 0.57, 0.76. Good. This is starting to increase the further that they go down the funnel, which means after we've taken out those bad sequences, you can see that now I've shortened it from 8 down to 5. And now the sequence is making a lot more sense to people. We're educating them correctly. They're starting to have more interest the further that they go down.
Should it be linear like that? Should it be smallest to largest? Or is it, I mean, that's sort of your benchmark that you're using here, but
I would expect it. Yeah. If I show you 5 ads at the end of it, you should not be wanting it less. You should be wanting it more.
Okay.
And so that was my thing. The thought.
And click-through rate is the only way in which you can measure that. We're not talking about view times here or anything like that. I would figure you would use view time.
Well, you can use view times, but the one thing that's bad about view times is I can still get the message across in 20 seconds that I may have needed 10 seconds or took 50 seconds to get. But if the hook for them to take an action, which is the reason why we don't really look at video, or we don't look at view engaged conversions, we want to see, like, if I get a conversion of like person requesting a call for a discovery based on a click, I should see my ad event type is not an engaged view conversion. That's a click. So someone clicked and said, okay, I'm interested after watching the first and second one. Good. That's the feedback that we're starting to get. So we don't really track a lot of conversions in these campaigns, but while we have to look at them is inferring them by the click-through rate. I have a lot more data for these video action campaigns off of imports and even inside of Data Suite. The problem is we don't really have clients that are also on Data Suite and using video sequencing campaigns just quite yet. So that's something that we're going to try to push into so we can have kind of both. So as of right now, we're looking at more on the click-through rate side and engagement. It should be measured by overall lead flow, overall lead quality, and then cost per new quality lead. Because if this is working well, I should start seeing more leads if we are. And I'll share with you also another thing that I've had. This is a consulting client. I had them do this week so that we can check in the data the next week, which is it ties it all together, which we'll go through soon. So we're looking at the click-through rate starting to increase. This is kind of the goal. It should not say, I saw the first one and it was great, and then I saw everything else and I hate it all. Like, we should see a gradual increase in click-through rate the further they go down the funnel. We should not see where we look at the pause ones where it's like 0.38, 0.46, 0.57, 0.2, and down 37%. Like, we should not see that.
Why you should choose us doesn't really cut it.
Exactly. That's kind of it sounds about right. I'm good, and here's why I'm good. That doesn't help me. So maybe it should be more about them. So we're interpreting the creative and based on the feedback. I got them interested and I lost more than half the people. I lost 2/3 of my engagement on video number 5. Let's remove that for right now while we re-strategize.
So in these campaigns, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
So on these campaigns, on the video sequence, it's basically video sequence. Well, let's look at the next one. What is ORM? Is that like video number 3 or it's a different sequence with different videos? Explain to me like what each video is in each sequence. It's the same one as this.
So this is like the video sequence. This video is like, what is ORM? This one is like this, what service we offer. This one that we paused is why choose us. The one that we also paused is social proof. The one that says, why should I care? Actually was a lot better than why should I care about you? This one's working well. So this is why it's like the why is it important to me? And then this is actually the one that people are actually taking action on. So why should I care is much better. So what iteration will we do next? Maybe I would actually open with why should I care?
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, if you're getting a really high click-through rate, or high relatively speaking, because 0.78 exactly earth shattering here, but on YouTube, pretty damn good.
It's 50% higher than the average.
Yeah. But changing the sequence to be able to put the good stuff up front. But then again, it might just be the result of the fact that it's good in the sequence where it actually sits, as opposed to it being the top of the funnel.
Right.
So what would your recommendation be here? Like, you're looking for the one that really has a big drop off. That's the first thing, which is the one that is, I forget which one.
Why choose us?
Why choose us?
Or exactly. So there's two schools of thought here, and that's what we have to test both. Is A, did you actually click the why should I care because you know what I'm talking about, or because it was a powerful video? If I saw this first, would I even care because it's first? Or do I now care because I've gone through the sequence? Those are things we have to test.
That's what I ask, right?
Exactly. So it could be that if we put the why should I care first, would that actually have a low click-through rate?
Oh.
So because it's like, hi, I'm the reputation management. Why should you care? It's like, what's reputation management? So that's the thing, is like, we have to develop the narrative of the story that actually can a lot of times be used inside of sales. The salesperson is like, if your company has a salesperson, what are some objections that they have to overcome each time? That's a video sequence. You're warming up now the traffic. You're removing those barriers before the sales team actually starts to enact with them by saying, here's who we are. This is why it works. This is why what you're doing does not. So all of those things that you're telling a story, you get to conceptualize into a narrative that typically you do not have control over. Hopefully that ad set works. Hopefully YouTube pushes ad spend there. Hopefully the percentage served is higher. This allows you to craft that narrative. And also pay really nice and happy CPMs for it, and then see where the drop off is increasing or decreasing.
Right.
The other thing that you would have to look at when you're talking about engagement is, because this is not a video conversion action campaign, it's not an action campaign, it is actually not really susceptible to spam. A lot of times spam, and one of the things that we always do is go through the entire campaign on the insights, the where ads showed, and then look at the where ads showed and then sort descending by click-through rate. What you'll find is a lot of times you'll have someone that says, yeah, I saw, I was impressed one time. I saw the ad one time. I clicked 3 times. So these are your spams. So when you look at things that are not necessarily like English speaking or placements, even though the campaign setting is set to English, Google doesn't care. So you still have to have that manual intervention where, if this was a video action campaign, you'd have 1 click, 1 view, and 126, or 1 impression, 1 view, and 126 clicks, because YouTube is going to start showing the ad to where the engagement comes into more often.
Right.
So this doesn't really necessarily have that. So it's not as susceptible to spam, but you do have to go into your placements that are having the spam and essentially go ahead and exclude those locations from the campaign. That is something that has to be watched very frequently, because you should never have more than 100% click-through rate on an individual channel for an individual person.
You're pulling out the weeds.
Exactly. So this is kind of something that we do quite often, which is why we're not getting spam, but we did get a little bit amount of spam this last week. So I was like, well, I'll show it on the Friday Live just for a use case, because this thing can really eat into your budget very quickly, and you get all excited because you got more clicks, lower CPC.
If it's not watched, right?
Exactly. So that's why that's why click-through rate is always a really good indicator as, is this going to be useful? Is it something that is going to help my brand? Now, the flip side to this, which is I don't have the data to support yet, but I do have the data to show in terms of the brand campaign, which is, why am I going blank? Better, there it is. So inside of the brand campaign, what you want to do is set up a new audience. The new audience, where it's populating right now. That's why it's not eligible, because it's too small. This is something that was just installed yesterday afternoon, so we'll need a couple days for it to fill up. But what you can do is actually go in and create. Let me go into the creation portion of this. You can go in and create an audience. This audience,
the people who watch the Who Is ORM video, perhaps.
It could be. So that's what's nice, is you can actually, we don't have a customer type, but what we did right now is we're filling up a general audience of the action.
Everybody watched.
View any video as an ad in the past 30 days. We did backfill it as well. Okay. And so this is something that we'll pipe back in. But now this ad viewer in the last 30 days is added as an observation audience inside of your brand campaign. So this way, what we can look at is our audiences. Let me go back to here. Just where's my campaigns? There we go, campaigns, and then go into the brand, and then go into the audiences, and go into the audience segments. Now with this observation setting, what we'll be able to see is if someone Googled the brand name, were they also found in the audience of people who watched an ad in the last 30 days? Because that will be a different segment than everybody else in the campaign. So as of right now, we know we have 122 clicks and no one was found in the audience, obviously, because the audience is built brand new yesterday. So it's populating and it's learning, and it's that's the technical term, is populating. But now we'll be able to say out of 122 clicks, 18 of those people were actually people who watched my video as an ad, then Googled my brand. And I can compare the people who are just normally converting versus the people who watched an ad and converted, and get the metrics on those. What's cost per conversion? What's conversion rate? All those things there. Are we making an impact off of the people who saw our ad versus all the other omnichannel marketing, including inbound non-brand search and Meta, to say, okay, these are people who have watched an ad and then Googled. Those people come in X amount cheaper, more plentiful, higher click-through rates, etc., and maybe also potentially with an import, the people that are quality versus non-quality leads.
What's to prevent you? I love the sequencing idea. What's to prevent you from just doing sort of a feeder strategy on YouTube type of campaign?
I do run those. I do that for the supplement brand that I can't show on live. I don't have permission, but we spend about 100 G's a month on these things, and it works very, very, very well. But the conversions are crap inside of it. They rarely ever track a conversion.
Right. Inside YouTube, it sucks. But like top of funnel, if you've got the money and you know your audience and you've got a great message, and I know they use sequencing, if I'm not mistaken, and you're running a ton of it, it's like, why wouldn't you just do that and then grab those audiences and boom? Like those video view audiences. And
they're super plentiful. We can export those people too when they convert, and we can also put them into, we actually have a shared Klaviyo that is API. So as long as anyone is being fed into that Klaviyo, they cross-pollinate between the other campaigns and other channels. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with these, and these, in my opinion, are much more valuable than your standard video campaigns or even demand gen. Demand gen looks fantastic in app, but it lacks the education piece. It lacks the frequency.
Right.
We look at any video action campaign, the frequency is extremely low. And we all know, if you're omni-channel media buyer or marketer or company, a 1.4 frequency is impossible to actually get anybody to do anything. Those people that do click and convert on a 1.4 frequency, that's when you check in, you're like, oh, these people, 80% of these people have already been on my website before. So they're already warmed up. So that's the part where these video action campaigns have a much higher impact on brand. The people that are searching the brand, that is where we typically see this come in most often, is there is a brand lift. The other thing that you could do, obviously, if you have a bigger budget, is do Google Search Console. If I'm marketing in areas, and not a holdout test, but if I'm testing, like, let's say a region, is the searches coming from that region of my brand name more plentiful than the other regions, also more plentiful year over year? Is that rate higher than where all the other locations are as well? Right. That's something that has been working well with the other company. The interesting thing about the YouTube sequencing, though, is you can run these on TV. So
YouTube
you can,
TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can run them on YouTube TV. So now I can tell a sequence ads to a person who's sitting there on the couch watching TV, and those ads are not skipped. Those have 98% view rates, and those are extremely cheap. I mean, stupid cheap.
Still stupidly cheap. Because I remember when we first talked about this, when we first started doing these. Like,
let me
cheap back then. It's still cheap now.
I'm just gonna look to see if I still have I still have access to that campaign. Do I know that's? Oh yeah, I do. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me just take a look here real quick. Let me just get to the where ad showed, and we will be able to see how this is doing. All right, so watch this. Last 2 weeks. So last 14 days. Go ahead and are you able to blow up that screen
share?
Oh,
can I do that?
You
don't have control today. Wow.
I know. I'm not logged in apparently, and I don't know. I don't remember my login, and I forget that I don't know my login at the time I'm logging in. So I was like, I got to start. So yeah, this is
for like 2 seconds, and all of a sudden you're screen sharing again.
I know, right? We go too fast. Last 14 days, YouTube TV. We have 164,000 impressions with 162,000 watched, which gives you a 98.85% interaction rate. Costs us $500. $500 for 165,000 TV commercials. Not too shabby.
Wow.
Yeah,
and those are full on 30, 60 seconds. Like, what are they? 30, 60 seconds? I forget.
Let's just do this. let me run stupid thing.
Click on one.
Yeah, 30 seconds, 42 seconds.
42 seconds in and around that area. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting 30 to 42 seconds with 98% watch rates, which means 2% of those people are skipping. I get 165,000 TV commercials for $500.
That's insane.
I know, right?
That is cheap. Last question before we get over to questions, which I know we've skipped a couple of weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Is what is the framework or recommendations that you have regarding the YouTube sequencing, like video sequencing? You sort of talked about it like in a sales call. We talk problems first, and then we talk like, what's your sequence just in a general way? Because you always say, oh, I'm not really an advertiser or creative. Well, in fact, you actually are. So, but what is that framework that people can follow?
Yeah, so I actually like entice and educate. That's been the best model. So fast, short versions of the videos in the first 1 or 2 to 3. Sometimes 3 is too much, depending upon your length of your sequence. But the first videos that they should see, 1 or 2, should be short, fast snippets that are more bumper ads. They don't have to be actually a bumper ad where it's capped at 14.59 seconds, but it is something that is sub 30 seconds, more like 15 to 25 seconds. Those are non-intrusive, exciting, that kind of wets the whistle. So I literally have a thing of something called coconut rolls or banana coconut rolls. I don't know. My wife just got them from Costco, but something like this, where it's like your TV commercial where it's like coconut rolls, gluten-free, lots of flavor. Kids love them. That's it. Like, we're just starting to introduce you to the brand, and we're starting to not take up too much of your time to be like coconut rolls off to regular scheduled programming. So I don't want to interrupt what you're trying to do on YouTube too intrusively with I know you really want to watch this video, but here's 4.5 minute video about me. That's immediate skip. So you're trying to uninterrupt them with the least intrusive amount of possible. So I can start to brand myself a bit with some just unique selling proposition or small hooks, not even a detailed hook, just a small hook, gluten-free, organic, something like that. Yeah, along with the right audience. And then you can move into more about the when I say the unique hook, I mean it has to be something that is a unique hook about you that no one else can do.
And that's video 2.
That's like video 3 and 4. Yes,
3 or 4.
Okay. Exactly. So something that is like, we actually have more of the active ingredient, and we've also added this active ingredient so your body absorbs it. So actually you get twice the absorption for half the cost, and it's on sale. Okay, now I understand that your supplement is better than their supplement because you actually added this, which gives me more value of your supplement, and I pay less for it. Okay, so now I'm just using bad examples. So those are things that you have to have in terms of the media, and then you can immediately move to scarcity sale. Low stock, limited supply, limited edition, and it's on sale. And so those are things that we've seen can help. I do a little bit less of the scarcity and sale and more so about just kind of trying and testing different iterations of those unique selling or unique value propositions. And those are things I would say you want to focus on. So it's a short snippet, high excitement. We call them sizzle reels. Then after sizzle comes steak. So you got the sizzle first, then steak. The steak is going to be more about education. And I can see the iterations are people watching those more or less. And then you can move into more the A part in AIDA, the attention, interest, decision, action that was still taught even at this Iceland trip. That decision and action is going to be more about like are you ready to buy and buy today, and incentivizing you to buy, even if it's just signing up for an email. Like something that is moving them to the next, I'm going to click on the ad now, which is having higher click-through rates and then taking action there.
Got it. So it really is like, are you mindful of the 25 seconds, like on a skippable ad, like put all the juice up front kind of thing?
Yeah. And a lot of times what you'll do is you'll do the old, I say old, but it's like 2 years old. The Mr. Beast idea. Mr. Beast was one of the first people who pioneered like the craziest 10 seconds of that video before his hour-long video played. So that's kind of the theory there is people are more used to seeing like the fast, short, happy snippets, but they're unintrusive. They don't put a negative taste in the mouth of the person while you're introducing your brand. Worst thing I do is be like, hey, before you enter that shop, can I talk to you about Jesus Christ? No, like you might, you see what I'm saying? It's like you're on your way to do something and someone's like, I'm important. You're like, no, you're not. I'm trying to get something done. But if we're walking into a store and I'm like, free toilet paper.
Yeah. I like that. I need toilet paper. Free's good.
Exactly. Gluten-free. Oh, actually, I was on my way to gluten-free. Yeah.
That's right. I was on the way to the bathroom anyway. Thank you very much for that role. There's an old expression, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
There you go. Exactly.
It really, like, so that's it. Like front end load that. I know nothing really changes in advertising because human nature doesn't really change. AIDA, it's great to hear that they're still teaching that Gary Glenn Ross style in Iceland. One of the best movies of all time.
It was Amazon that did that too. They actually called it attention, interest, desire, action. I'm like, you can't change it.
Oh, come on. Decision. AIDA.
Steak knives and Cadillacs, baby.
That's it. Coffees for closers. All right. Speaking of closers, John Moran's dog is in the house.
Hey.
Sorry we didn't get to all your questions last week, but we've got 22 minutes to answer questions because I do have a hard stop at the bottom of the hour. You know who I'm selling perpetual traffic advertising to today?
TikTok?
No.
Oh.
Cosm.
Charge him twice as much.
I know. I redid the deck. I doubled all the prices. Anyway.
There you go.
Don't tell him. All right. John Moran's dog. How you doing, buddy? Great to hear from you. Hey. E-com client with 15% margin on security products. Any tips on scaling shopping without going negative net profit? Needs 660 MER. I believe that's a 6.6 MER. Target to break even, but struggling with scaling profitable.
Okay.
In part to that as well. I don't know if this is part of it.
What is the reasonable budget test? So that's a kind of it's a second question, so it's not related to the first one.
Okay.
Here's my trepidation. Scaling shopping will very, very, very rarely ever result in a 660 MER unless you have a very high AOV. $2,000-$3,000 and
security products might though.
Yes. And so that's where I would say is security products. If you're like a 4-pack of cameras for $99, no. If you're looking at like security gates, yes. So if you could
enterprise cybersecurity systems, yes,
exactly. Yes. And and I don't think that you would probably have a monthly subscription or anything unless it's a fulfillment for monitoring, but that could be something as well.
Right.
But if I'm looking at e-com client for security products, my opinion would be to start, if you haven't already, with the highest AOV products first. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it works. And I actually have data for some reason. This is actually a client that sells custom-made boxes. And those boxes on the average order value is about $1,800. Now they don't come in at $1,800. They usually will come in to a sample size. Like, I'm just going to get a sample of this product. And then, if I like the product, we can order some more.
It's a great offer.
Exactly. So we've scaled this up a bit.
Test it before you really, really dive right in. Right.
Right. And so we've tested this for some time. Where is it? Sorry, I tried to go fast, but what the heck?
It's really hard when you have headphones on if you have an itch in your ear.
Oh, I know. I hate that.
People are like, what the hell is he doing with his headphones? So we're talking about AOV here to be able to scale up on shopping. It's like, that's the only real, the answer is, unless your AOV is, what's the threshold for high AOV in John Moran's mind?
So that's where I would say is it's going to be dependent upon the campaign. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive and stupid to talk about, but it actually is fairly true. Is if you are trying to get a 660 in standard shopping, I've run thousands and thousands of these campaigns. It's probably a 1% chance it's going to happen. My opinion, you probably have a lot better luck on actually Meta because you have the law of CPM. Your law of CPM says I can spend $5 and get 1,000 people, or law of CPC is I can spend $5 and get one. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would say that my opinion I wouldn't even attempt this unless you have at least a $2,000 to $3,000 AOV. If not, my opinion, I would not push here. I would attempt meta first. If you have to do it on standard shopping, a PMAX feed only, non-brand, would be your next best bet, because you can force those CPC down with higher T ROAS, but then you're limited by scale. I don't have a lot of great methodology, because if you're looking at your AOV is, let's say, $500 and your $5 clicks, I mean, you got 10 clicks before you're like not profitable at that MER. Yeah. So that's where it's like your conversion rates can't falter below like 20% if you have lower AOV. That doesn't happen. So
you better have a damn good offer.
Yeah, exactly. Violate map.
Right.
Yeah.
If you need to.
We've done that. That actually is not a bad idea. You map pricing and then you do special offer hidden with add to cart. You can do that. But yeah, it's your very uphill battle.
There's ways around it. His second question here: what would you say the reasonable minimum budget and test period for demand gen? How can results be evaluated without back-end data like new customer metrics or third-party tools such as Northbeam?
Yeah, so I actually have tested, no joke, between 15 and 20 demand gens this last month, and I've stopped all of them. Not one of them was profitable. Half of those were actually given to us with free ad spend from Google. Google keeps pushing on it. I said, absolutely. As long as you foot the bill, I'll do whatever you want. You could build it yourself. Actually, a lot of them took us up on that. They put $20,000 in there, and it was the first campaigns that were like, I know it's free, but it's dragging down our top line metrics like crazy. So we actually just paused them. So I have not yet made demand gen work for bottom of the funnel. Top, middle of the funnel, all day long. Coupons, signups, that kind of stuff, all day long. 50-cent conversions, quality. Bottom of the funnel conversions, no. It's YouTube plus display. It's not going to get any really much better. So I don't like demand gen at all. It's actually completely excluded from my repertoire.
Got it. Makes sense. All right. Brian J says, John, about your 5x TCPA comment, does this apply to YouTube campaigns for purchases? My CPA is 75, set TCPA at 375, daily budget 500, increasing only after consistent $75 CPAs, question mark.
It's actually 15x. So I usually take whatever my existing CPA is, I multiply that by 15, and then that becomes my YouTube daily ad spend. And that has been tested for years. And that was I was always like, whatever Google says is a lie. That one is actually always rang true. Google says back in 2021, 15x your CPA for your targeted daily ad spend. And that's where I'll optimize it within 8 days. I do see that really consistently. Now, when I got a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I noticed that it was a reason why is because it had so much data to attribute to itself, which means as long as I spend a whole bunch of money, I can find people to convert. And when I say find people to convert, is I can find people to show ads to that are going to convert anyway, and kind of as a gauge view conversion. So the imports have a lot of times wiped out a lot of the YouTube inefficiencies. We'll have some case studies on that. I'm working on that in the lab as CAPI imports. I call them CAPI like meta, but CAPI imports for Google and YouTube. Really, really interesting stuff happening there. So we'll have more consistent data, but still, if I'm gonna, all right. And as long as I have YouTube available, I'm pushing hard into sequencing. I don't even push hard into video action campaigns anymore. They're just going way too warm without CAPI imports. So it's just pure sequencing. I know they're
probably one of the most exciting things that, well, you obviously figured it out, but I quickly realized, I'm like, holy shit, this is a big deal. CAPI imports, standard events, just like we talked about last week. And we're putting that on hold. We're putting a pin in it so that we can get more data and talk about it maybe next week and the week after that. So exciting stuff coming down the line here. Thank you, Brian J, for that. Mark Pommet. Been a long time since we answered one of his questions. I'm getting way better results with manual CPC over max clicks for feeder strategy. Search partners turned off on both with max clicks. I saw no bump in my TCPA campaign. Thoughts?
That's why my two campaign strategies were always max clicks and manual CPC. If you wanted to have more of a set it and forget it, max clicks does work well because it will self-adjust to your competitors' bids. Manual CPC does work better. And my typical strategy was use max clicks, find out the area where you have a high enough placement for quality, but a low enough placement for volume. And then once you find that, you can lock it in with manual. The problem is when you lock it in with manual, it can work really, really well until unbeknownst to you, your competitor's like, you know what? I'm going to switch to max conversions. I'm going to take off the TCPA and let's actually bump some bit of ad spend. And then manual CPC goes and just hits the ground because now Google's like, someone else wants to earn these clicks first. So your feeder strategy essentially takes a little bit. If they don't have a TCP or TROAS, means, hey, one of your competitors is actually going to pay twice as much as you are for the same exact person, because they don't care if they're going to convert or not within the threshold. And then that starts to go down. Then you find out, okay, if I go back to max clicks, all of a sudden my CPC increases by 40% and all everything's back again. So yes, manual will work better than max clicks, but max clicks will react better to your competitor's ecosystem. So it's up to you if you want to check insights every single day to say, like, is my search term I'm searching for still give me the same placement it was yesterday? If not, you have a lagging 7-8 day time lag between all of a sudden conversions falling off and you're wondering what's going on. Well, the bad part happened a week ago, and now it's no longer investigatable because now they've switched campaign strategies again. Yeah. So that's where I would say is I didn't have enough time in the day to check all the feeder strategies. I just use max clicks for ease. I just set the budget lower. So your mileage may vary. You have potentially maybe 5-10 clients or 5-10 campaigns. I had like a few hundred that I couldn't do it. So that was my fix for it.
Right. It's quicker and easier. So, all right, here's a stupid question for you. This is something that I haven't asked, but I'm curious as to what your answer is. When you're using feeder strategy with max clicks to TCPA, why does this not help out your competition as well? Because they could just they could set their TCPA campaigns higher and steal that traffic from your max clicks campaign. What am I missing there?
So TCPA and TROAS goes warm. We've proven this live already. And what ends up happening is I have a standard shopping campaign here on max clicks, and I have a standard shopping campaign here on TCPA. TCPA when you don't have this campaign here, says I'm going to go and get a click from Bob, and then Bob's going to, come to my site and Bob's going to do something. And if Bob looks good, I will then go find Bob later for a higher CPA with a higher CPC. Your competitors don't have the visit from Bob yet, so they don't know how to bid or if that person's ready to buy yet. So because you have a max clicks campaign earning you that data first, now your TCPA campaign says Ralph's been on the site. Ralph has something in cart. When Ralph searches even non-brand again,
your site, not the competitor's site, but wouldn't it help the competitors somehow, some way in there? You know what I mean?
Probably.
Like Google knows too much.
Yeah. I mean, it will. It's not as bad as Meta because it's not proactive. It's still inbound. So that's the only thing is proactive Meta says if you even touch an ad, everyone slams on top of you. Right. Google is if you search again, you have to take the action first. So if you search again, then you're going to get the bid war. Well, I already have more data than my competitors on the bid war because my tag has you ready to buy. Their tag says, who's Ralph?
So if their TCPA is more aggressive, meaning higher than yours, you're still going to win out. Like, how do you know where to set the TCPA?
That's why my TCPA or my TROA is always 40%. I have a low TROA all the time.
Got it. Okay. So that prevents you from overspending, obviously, to a certain degree. And it's the happy medium.
I'll use a low TROAS on my conversion campaigns. My feeder strategy would be max clicks or manual. My conversion campaign will be a low TROAS to allow it to bid really high. And then that budget is 8 times higher than my max clicks campaign or 5 times higher, 80-20.
Oh, it's diabolical.
I know, right?
I love it.
And then my 40% TROAS will still give me a 300% in-app.
Of course.
Exactly.
Why not?
Yep.
It's got to look good in there. John Moran's dog is back. He's off the couch and he's eating his dog food. That's it. What are your top tips for making YouTube advertising platform well through demand gen, having strong video creative? I think we kind of covered this before.
Yeah, I'm 100% anti-demand gen. Here's my question for John Moran's dog. What I would do is I would invest, because I know that I've seen the theme of your questions. I would invest in a third-party platform. I know you're saying, how do we do it without those type of things? My opinion to you is try to get something that allows you to truly analyze demand gen traffic. When you see rates of like 15 and 20% cold and your ECPNB is $8, $10, $12, $15 per click in demand gen when they're new, you'll start thinking differently about demand gen. You'll say, okay, if this is the case typically, I don't want to say, how do I put more money into really hot traffic? How do I feed this better? Or how do I utilize this better? Because in platform demand gen, honestly, just, run it at $100 a day, give it 3 months, and it'll be 500% all day long. Now you might You might not have a client by then, which is truly what happens to me when I was doing that. I had to learn out the way. If you're like, hey, I'm actually pretty good if I just get those in-app, then just launch it on a max conversions, T ROAS 400%. Let that thing just ride. It will find people to attribute. My opinion is when you're looking at finding people to contribute, your questions will change on demand gen. You're going to say, hey, I see demand gen stealing my inbound non-brand search customers after the first click. How do I stop it? Those will be more of the questions you'll ask. So I think that analyzing the conversion path and truly seeing how much cold traffic of quality is coming from demand gen is much different than, can I get 80% junk shit traffic at 10 cents CPC, but I got the 10 conversions attributed to it regardless of what I spent. Yeah. So cold traffic doesn't mean quality. Cold traffic means I can get to cheap display traffic, but quality is much different. Demand gen has not yet introduced actual quality cold traffic in any one of my tests, even when Google pays for it.
So there's no exceptions to that, really.
Not yet. I have not figured it out yet. It's way too automated. It's Performance Max without search and shopping. That's all it is. Right. We already know what we use Performance Max for.
And it's just a bunch of junk traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great for second clicks, but not first.
Would you recommend going over to Meta for something like this? Like he's thinking about YouTube.
Yeah. I would say if you're thinking, hey, I can get new strong audiences with demand gen, immediately try Meta first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer. Yep. All right, John, aka Google's dad.
This is a new. That dude looks like me.
That's what it's
the same name.
Is that it? Is.
Oh my God,
we're like a brother from another mother.
I know. I want to click on his profile, but I can't click on it here. All right, John, who looks like John, Google's daddy. Can you give us real examples of how you decide on moving an ad from creative test campaign to main campaign? Is it the new ads that are existing? Or are you turning anything off? That's a great question.
I think that's a meta question because you said ad set, even though you're Google's daddy. You are me. It's
Google's
weird.
daddy.
Like you say Google, but you have meta strategies. Cool. So check this out. This is what we're doing now.
Get your same smile too.
That's what I thought. He stole my picture. This is weird. I have a picture of me doing that. I was a black shirt, which is great.
It is genuinely available online. Just Google John Moran. All right. Oh, I've got a producer here. Okay, here we go.
All right. So here's what I've been doing. These 4 campaigns are 2 campaigns, one with a creative testing and a scaling, and a creative testing and a scaling. The way that this is working now is you do have to have KPI imports active, and they have to, in my opinion, be first click server side, edge data, which is why you should buy it from us. But the way that this works now,
that is your picture, by the way. Now that it's larger on my screen, it totally is you.
It looks like me, but it's not me. I don't think it has different eyebrows.
Is it like AI? I don't know.
That's so close. It's uncanny. All right.
Keep going.
All right. So here we have this. So I'll just use this campaign here. So we have basically a cloned using the new, Google recommended structure, using the new, KPI import, all the other good stuff. And what we're doing is you'll see that in let's just say this last week or so, I don't have time to keep, changing things. We spent, $1,500 on a creative testing, and then we spent 15 grand on our scaling. What we do now is notice that if these 2 conversion events are the same, these people will be locked in, deduped to their respective ad sets, which means these people cannot bounce between up and down. They have to stay locked into these campaigns. So what we did is if we spend 90-10, or sorry, reverse that, 10-90, 1,500, 15,000, we can actually start to do creative testing on here and see the initial results of the product that we're trying to get purchased. When we find that is working, $193 versus $327, these are simply just copied into this campaign, but they are not removed from this campaign. They are simply added to the other campaign because
they're not deduping, or they are
deduping.
They are deduping, right?
Yes, which means that you would just stop marketing to 10% of your audience and switch to marketing to 90%. Don't do that. Keep the 10%. But your next step after you've transferred is to introduce new creative into the testing to see, can you beat the result that you just beat? If so, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so far, it's working well. 445 versus 800. All right, good. 193 versus 327. Okay, good. You see our creative testing is constantly beating our main.
Yeah.
And that's because we are doing creative testing. And what's interesting about this is since switching to this model, we have now a ad spend change of.
Oh, I thought we were in a different ad account, actually. I was like, oh, those CPAs don't seem all that, those NCAC numbers don't seem that great, but now they do.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Now when you're talking about $404,000 products, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's when we look at and say, okay, 2% change difference using Meta's new strategy and Meta's new recommendations, 16th to the 24th, to just do the 16th to the 24th compared to previous period here. And yeah, we're good. I mean, you see our Thrones are making 50% more sales, our Vistas making 20% more sales because we started doing our Vista and Throne. This is our new way of doing it. So we actually spent the exact same money, but getting much better results because it's utilizing the CAPI imports that we demand and the structure that Meta demands. So we're leveraging Meta while adding our new spin. So that's how you do creative testing.
That should answer the question. I think it is an AI version of you, by the way. He's got a secondary question. Yeah. If you were to build a women's supplement company around one hero supplement solely based on the results from ads, what would be the top 3 supplements you would choose? This is more of a business question, I think.
Build a women's supplement company around one hero supplement solely based off of the results from ads. What are your top 3 supplements you would choose? Oh, like what type of supplements, I'm guessing? Because I'm asking, you're building around one, what 3 would I choose? Okay, so like what 3 supplements would I choose to try to find the hero? Cleanse, for sure. Something cleansing is something that people constantly always have a feel of a need for because their diet's shit. So that would be number 1. The second thing I would say is sleep, because we're a bunch of stressed out, anxious insomniacs now. So cleanse, sleep, and then I would look for vitamin D, as we are more recluse inside under fluorescent lighting. That is typically what naturopaths have now been introducing into people's injections more recently. So cleanse, sleep, vitamin D.
There you go. 1, 2, 3. And we've got 2 minutes here before I oversell Qasim Aslam. 33 big money search campaign conversion campaign that went well, got messed up for 2 weeks, and now it spends most money on Sundays, not Mondays, when usually more leads came in. How can I get it to spend more on Mondays, I believe was the question.
When it says it got messed up for 2 weeks, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. So that actually is important for me.
That's kind of important. Maybe we can clarify that. Indergeep Singh says,
one thing I would say, 33 big money. Whenever I see oddities that don't go back, I know this is stupid. Actually, just clone the campaign. It's like rebooting. It works sometimes very well. So take that campaign, copy it, paste it, pause the original ones. And sometimes I swear to God, it will just go right back to normal. I would test that actually first.
Innerdeep says, I have search impressions lost rank 44%, budget almost 0. How do I increase lost rank? The issue is the keyword is sensitive and can't be included on the landing page and the ad copy, and using DKI to fight that.
That's one of the reasons why if DKI is not necessarily going to force any sort of specific keyword. And so your lost rank of 44% is due to solely your CPC. So depending upon your bidding strategy, I would use a more aggressive CPC. So the reason why you always use a low T ROAS or a high T CPA is to keep my search loss rank down low. Search loss impression share, though, could also be budget. I know budget says 0, but if you would have to get a higher CPC, you would need more budget. And to not get, and it wouldn't be able to spend a higher CPC because it doesn't have any additional budget. So if it's like, I'll give you 10, you get $2. If I give you 100, I can get $6. Now that means that the loss rank is due to eligibility. The eligibility is based on how did you structure the campaign. So bidding strategy and daily budgets are part of your eligibility. Search impression share is not click share. It is how much did I earn based on my eligibility, not what I could have received. So because you're doing a 44% and your budget's too low, I would say it seems like it's more like a CPC issue. Try to switch to a more aggressive bidding strategy.
All right. Well, I have to go.
I don't know. I actually have to go too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get to all the questions here, but I can turn it over to you? I can.
Yeah. And I know I don't think I can. I can see all the rest of them here though. So if you want to jump, hopefully it won't stop. I'm not logged in.
Yeah, I think it will stop.
Oh, it will stop. That's right.
Yeah. Everybody who asks questions, come on back next week. We promise to answer them first.
Yes.
Next week, same time, same channel, 2:30 Eastern. Me, John Moran, Tier 11 Live. We'll see you then. Thanks, John Moran. See you.
Thank you. Take care.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.